Buenas noches, ship familia. Welcome back to the latinXfactor Sharpen Your Professional Edge program. I'm Dr. Dora Renaud, Senior Director here at Ship National. Our show tonight is Your Future in Cybersecurity, which is a two-part webinar series about career journeys and degree pathways in cybersecurity. So tonight our panelists include Chris Hetner, one of our national board members who is an expert advisor to the Institute for Defense Analysis. He is a special advisor for cyber risk for NACD, and Chris also served as the senior cybersecurity advisor to the SEC chair. Sandra Pinto is an incoming cybersecurity advisory associate at KPMG. She is a current graduate student at University of Maryland, Baltimore County, studying data science with a concentration in cybersecurity and has been a SHIP member throughout her college life. So a little bit of logistics here before we get started. We are going to save our questions to the end of the show, but if you want to go ahead and submit the questions throughout, please feel free to, and we'll save them for the end. So let's go ahead and get started. So happy to have you guys join us tonight, Chris and Sandra. Welcome to the show. And without further ado, I'll pass over the mic to Chris and Sandra.
Thank you, Dora. This is great, and good evening, everyone. I appreciate your time. So tonight's objective is to walk through the future in cybersecurity and the potential career paths that you may have in front of us. As we know, cybersecurity is an emerging industry. It's in demand more than ever, given the pervasiveness and the advancements in cyber attacks. And the SHIP community has an opportunity to make a material contribution to advancing cybersecurity capabilities and contributing towards our mission set. So we're going to go through a few slides here. We'll walk through our respective timelines, and we'll dive into some of the areas in terms of specialization aligned to industry frameworks. So why don't we get started here? So I'm going to switch to slide 2. Everyone can see that. So my career path started fairly early on. I'm dating myself here. Back in 1992, I was an undergraduate student at John Jay College Criminal Justice, focused on advancements in security management and geopolitical risk, including other areas of security. And I recall taking a few courses on criminal behavior and the intersection of that behavior and the application of computer and information technology. And I recall this professor sitting me down into his office before taking one of his courses, and he said, Chris, the bad guys are going to go from robbing banks with guns to executing complex code over computer networks. And it's now playing in front of our eyes. And so my pivot from criminal justice to computer security started right around the mid-90s, 1994. And at that point, once I was completing the core of my undergraduate studies, I started to focus on systems and network administration. So essentially building computer networks for mid-sized platforms in the New York area and providing ongoing support, which gave me the foundation to think about the technology stack, the various layers of technology, but more importantly, given my background in security, where are the opportunities for security to be exploited through that technology stack? Right around the early 2000s, I pivoted to the network security engineering and data center development. So I built and operated a few data centers here in the New York area, largely servicing the financial services industry. These were essentially network security focused roles, building out the facility from a physical standpoint, developing and rolling out routing platforms. We had close to 400 firewalls under management, a heavy network packet analysis, understanding routing implications, and and serving up the web services during the early 2000s to the development and evolution of the internet. These were largely companies in the financial services industry, but we also serve a number of other customers in other industries. And right around 2003, I decided to pivot out of the professional services arena in technology and started to think about a career in financial services and banking. So I served as an information security leader for Citigroup. I worked in Wall Street for 5 years. I worked very closely with various lines of business that supported the bank, and as well as supporting the IT and security function. The time at Citigroup gave me visibility into regulatory implications as it pertains to cyber, including how cyber causes interruption to the business, and how a program on a global basis needs to be structured in such a way that is not only proving compliance to regulatory requirements, but also driving efficiency and reducing cyber risk. So it was a combination of leaning on my technical development in the early to late 90s to now how do we apply my skill set to a global banking platform. And at that point, Citigroup was the #1 bank in terms of size and complexity, upward of 250,000 employees across roughly 80 countries. So it's a very complex organization. 2008, I decided to pivot out of Citigroup, still remained in financial services, and I became the Chief Information Security Officer at GE Capital. GE Capital is a $500 billion, was a $500 billion financial institution operating over 60 countries. We had upward of 100,000 employees. And during that tenure, I managed the cybersecurity program, building the organization out, working on teams, staffing development, budgeting, risk management, the deployment of technology platforms, dealing with very complex tooling and mitigation of cyber threats across the globe. During the CISO period in 2008 through about 2012 was my first experience to advanced persistent threats emanating from different countries throughout the world. So we got to learn how sophisticated these threat actors are, how they infiltrate our networks, how they move across various network boundaries, and we were in a position to build out defenses. So extremely useful time and great learning experience as a Chief Information Security Officer. I will tell you the technical component of that role was, I'd say, represented about 25% of my responsibility. The lion's share of my responsibility was focused on leadership, people development, risk management, alignment of cybersecurity to the business objectives and the board of directors, and meeting external stakeholder requirements. So, as you kind of think through your evolution in your career path, as you shift to more senior executive-oriented roles, you have to have a fuller plate of skill set and capability in order to represent that rounded out view and operate at that level. But it was an incredible experience as a global CISO. Right around 2013, GE Capital decided to start reducing their organization. They started to sell off their assets. And so I decided to take a role in a management consulting capacity at Ernst & Young, running their cyber practice in New York. It was focused on investment advisors and private equity firms. And it led me to the opportunity to go serve as the Securities Exchange Commission Senior Cyber Security Advisor to the chair's office. So I was selected to go run point on cyber on behalf of the SEC. Our focus was on looking at financial market risk. How does cyber impact different organizations' security posture across a wide range of organizations? And in that role, also served in other government advisory capacities, working with the Department of Homeland Security, the United States Treasury on financial resilience. And from there, I pivoted to more of a board advisory role. So taking cyber, that's a traditional technology component in the organization, and moving it all the way up the chain to the board of directors, so that we're expressing cyber to economic and business outcomes. And I'm still operating in that role. I no longer serve in the U.S. government, although I still work with the U.S. government in an advisory capacity. But my current role, in addition to serving as a board member for SHIP at the national level, is to also serve as an advisor to a number of boards of directors, thinking about cybersecurity and its implication on economic risk. And now we're seeing it even more prevalent given the intensity of ransomware attacks, business interruption, everything ranging from SolarWinds attack to disrupting our supply chain, disruption to our gas supply, our oil distribution, and now more recently over the weekend, our food supply, given the disruption on meat production. So it permeates the fabric of society. No one is immune to cyber risk, and it's a great opportunity to pivot and help not only serve the organization that you're employed at, but also serve the betterment of society, the betterment of economic stability, and help to secure and solidify our defenses. So I'm going to stop there and hand it off to Sandra, and we'll talk about her career. Over to you, Sandra.
Thanks, Chris. What an amazing journey. I learned so much about you. It's so inspiring. I'm also a career changer, likewise, Chris. I started out in business. I worked in accounting for nonprofit, private accounting for almost 8 years. And then around 2018, I started to explore about my options I was not feeling fulfilled in my career. And I always have a love or passion for technology, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do in technology. And I joined a boot camp at a community college. I took data analytics, and from there, I discovered that I wanted to become a data scientist. I attended several conferences, webinars, and I continued doing so throughout my career all this time. And in 2018, 2021, I worked for a government contractor, and I decided to start my master's in data science at University of Maryland, Baltimore County. Around that time, I became a SHIP member, which has been amazing. And around that time, throughout my first 2 semesters, I found out that my graduate program, offered a concentration in cybersecurity, and I had to choose a concentration. So I picked cyber because cyber is just, as Chris mentioned, you're not immune to cyber threat. No one is immune. It's part of our lives, and you can see with current events, cyber threats. No one is immune to it, and it creates so many problems. So you kind of feel, I found a purpose in cybersecurity, and I want to help fight this cyber threats. And I choose cybersecurity operations as my concentration for master's program. And around 2021, I began my job search. In December 2020, began my job search. And after several job interviews, I interviewed for both data scientist roles and cybersecurity roles. And after several interviews, a lot of networking and rejections and everything, I received an offer from KPMG in cybersecurity advisory. And I actually started today. Today was my first day. And my from here to the years to come. I will be graduating from my master's this August after I finish my capstone, and it has to be in data science because my master's in data science. But I'm planning to find a topic about incorporating cybersecurity in it, and also I want to continue growing in my career in cybersecurity. I'm a newbie, so I'm still exploring. With this role at KPMG, I will get a lot of exposure, and I will be able to build my cyber muscle, and hopefully I will be able to discover my niche and and I plan to work in consulting for the next 3 to 5 years, and in progress in my career at KPMG, and then I will decide. It will help me decide where I want to go going forward. But I know that I will be joining the cloud practice at KPMG, and I will be working in cloud security, and I will find out if that's what I want to do. But KPMG being a huge professional services company, I have so many options in the future. Maybe if I want to do work in defense for the government, or I will be working with different industries with my current role because it's commercial, and I will find out what industry attracts me more, and yeah, and then that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much, Sandra, and a very compelling journey. And I could tell you, coming from an accounting background, given your proficiency in data analytics and the fact that you've got this kind of diverse view on cyber, is going to greatly benefit your ability to contribute, particularly having an accounting background, because increasingly cybersecurity is impacting the bottom line, the business, the financials,
Right.
and being in a position to speak to that related to the non-technical persona is going to be a force multiplier, will give you the ability to articulate to very senior executives, and I can assure you that you'll have a head start relative to your peers in this space. So it's a very
Thank you.
exciting opportunity.
I'm
And
very
look,
excited.
the beauty of cybersecurity is that it's an all-encompassing type of skill set. It embraces diversity. It encourages diversity.
Yes.
And to be effective at cyber, you have to have that 360 view across the enterprise. And it's beyond just the enterprise. It's looking at geopolitical risk. It's evaluating the financial implications. It's obviously looking at technology, but it's also factoring in, business implications and regulatory and compliance. So if you look at the all-encompassing skill set to be, a cybersecurity professional and executive, you have to have all these components. And more importantly,
Absolutely.
is communications. And we're always
Right.
communicating. We're always going to sell. So
Yeah.
continue to refine your sales skills, because there's always a challenge to communicate to the non-tactical persona. So
for sure.
I'm going to go just to give a download on where we are now in terms of cybersecurity. Why now? I think I really shouldn't have to reinforce this slide, given the events over the last 3 months. But I'll just throw out some statistics here. Cybercrime, according to the World Economic Forum, is expected to grow 15% over the next 5 years. So we're going to reach close to $10.5 trillion globally by 2025 in terms of economic loss. So this is hitting the bottom line. This is hurting our economies, companies' bottom lines. 61% of cybersecurity leaders say security teams are understaffed. I would argue that's probably a bit low, but every one of my peers in the cybersecurity arena have a challenge for talent retention, have a challenge for recruitment, and it bodes well for those individuals that are looking to pivot into cybersecurity because you are in demand. There's 100% employment opportunity here. 55% have unfilled cybersecurity positions, so no surprise there. And particularly as you look at the evolution of cybersecurity, the skill sets that we may have today are going to change tomorrow. And so you have to retool, evolve yourself in capability and project where you need those skill sets to be filled. 3.5 million job openings by the end of this year. So plenty of opportunities on the global scale. Total cybersecurity job openings in the United States, just under 500,000. Supply demand ratio of cybersecurity workers average 2 to 1. And just statistically, no surprise, you look at some of the pockets of openings: California, Texas, Florida, Virginia, New York. Although I will say, given the world of COVID, many of these roles have gone virtual, which means that you can work anywhere. So don't let the location be a deterrent. Many of these companies are operating virtually. I've been working from my basement behind me since COVID started. I work on average, 12 to 14 hours a day, sometimes over the weekends, and I don't see this changing anytime soon in terms of connectivity to the companies that I engage with. So
Absolutely.
we're going to think about we'll call it the division of cybersecurity roles across the various competencies. And the National Institute of Standards and Technology has created what they call a NICE framework. It's a national initiative for cybersecurity education. And there's a specific publications that we can get to you on this, but provides a set of building blocks for describing the specific tasks, the knowledge, the skill sets that are needed to perform cybersecurity work, performed by individuals and teams. So there's a distinction here between an individual and how you roll into that team construct, and how that team construct informs a specific stated objective. And through these building blocks, through the NICE framework, enables the organization, enables individuals like yourselves that are looking to pursue a career in cybersecurity to develop your skill sets, to think about workforce development, to perform these specific tasks. And it helps learners and individuals in the educational field to think about what skills, what capabilities should you be thinking about and harnessing in on in order to align yourself to these specific areas. So through this objective, through the NICE framework, there's specific lexicon, there's proficiency analysis, there's a thinking on criticality in terms of role, how this has evolved, and then that informs the level of workforce development, what level of capital human planning is required. If we don't have the talent in-house, do we source it externally? If and in some cases the external pool of talent may not be available, so how do we incubate and develop that talent internally, or even through education and university system? And then it takes you on this career path and trajectory from the entry stage to mid-level to the most senior level, and each path has its own set of specialization, from deep technical to analysis to incident response, and we'll walk through some of these through more strategic roles, and through that process, what are the qualification requirements? What types of certifications should you be pursuing? Where in the university system could you be sourcing specific knowledge sets from? Are there certifications that you should be considering? Hands-on training is absolutely critical to this process. And so it's designed to really set a standardized framework for developing these positions. I could tell you when I was a CISO in 2008 for GE Capital, this did not exist. I wish it did. And so we would think about cybersecurity roles through peer benchmarking and analysis on where the demands are. But this type of framework creates some structure around building the blocks for a capable and ready cybersecurity workforce. So we're going to start thinking about discovering our career paths. So you have a grid here, and it's organized by what we call a feeder role. Think of the feeder role as a high-level objective and specialization. National positions. This is just a general view on the number of openings and availability, and then it pivots to entry, mid-level, advanced. I'm not going to go into this exhaustive detail, but if you think about the feeder role and you're, let's say, a networking guru, you've developed a strong skill set in TCP/IP, you've built networks, you understand the reliance and interconnectivity of networks and its underlying technology, you could pivot to a technician or cyber specialist that could build out networking platforms, configure firewalls, perform specific tasks to deploy those networking technologies. And then as you go through the mid-level, advanced level, beyond just the hands-on build, based on that experience set, you become more of an analyst. The analyst looks at specific trends, looks at the performance associated with the deployment of specific networks, the activity, and then as you think through advanced levels, typically you're in a management role where you have a team under you, you're responsible for a functional area to actually oversee some of these developments, some of these capabilities. Same thing can apply to software development, systems engineering. I find the financial and risk analysis interesting because that takes you from more of a, we'll call it accounting, financial background, similar to Sandro's background. And now you have the ability to pivot into an incident analyst and response type of role, where if there was an incident that occurred, a cyber breach, a disruptive attack, a ransomware attack, name the scenario, you now have the ability to apply your financial and accounting skills to determine what's the impact to the company. How do we think through prioritization of restoring systems based on risk, based on impact to the organization's bottom line? So there's a really a nicely done, well-structured framework here to think through kind of the evolution of cyber and where the specific roles are. And you can see the number of positions. I mean, this is just a brief summary of number of positions, but this number will grow. I mean, we're growing 15% year over year in terms of overall spend on cybersecurity. So maybe I'll pause there and hand it off to Sandra. And I know this is your first day at KPMG. Congratulations, and it's really a wonderful opportunity. But think through where do you think you'll be in the next 5 years? What you're thinking on evolving your skills? I mean, being in consulting, you're going to be exposed to a wide range of opportunities. But I'd love to get your thoughts on your thinking on where you're going to be.
Right. I'm gonna, as you mentioned, I'm gonna get exposed to different environments, different challenges, different industries, and as I go in consulting, I will find out my niche. Right, I discover what exactly want to do in cyber, and right now I'm put on the cloud community or the cloud practice. And I plan to continue for the next 5 years in consulting and move the ranks, hopefully soon, and become a senior and then manager. And I'm still researching. I'm still doing trainings. There's a lot of self-learning involved when you're starting out a new career? Besides getting, it could be getting a master's degree, it could be by attending boot camps, getting certifications. And now my next step is getting certifications. So getting certified in a AWS cloud, practitioner or architect, is getting the Security Plus. I don't have it yet. That's a great entry-level certificate to get if you want to break into cybersecurity. Then there are other certificates out there, certifications like CISP, but that takes more experience. But I plan to obtain the CISP at some point. And there's constant learning, involved, and I plan to be constantly learning. And my company, I'm blessed that that's super important. Like that's I will be in constant. I have to be constantly learning, upgrading. Stay relevant with new technology, new threats that come up in the future. As technology keeps evolving with artificial intelligence. That we're gonna be seeing more different type of sophisticated threats, and so you have to stay relevant and keep learning. And this is the start of my career in cyber, so I'm taking step by step, but of course I keep staying relevant and try to really get into it and focus in my new career.
That's great. And I think that, one of the critical points you emphasize, Sandra, is staying.
And also, sorry, find a mentor. That's super important. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Find a mentor, join networking, professional organizations like SHIP. Then there is Women in Cybersecurity that I'm part of. That actually I'm going to their conference in October. I actually obtained a BPOP scholarship for minorities, and I'm very excited about it. And you don't know, through networking is super important. You can get job referrals through networking, and also you can find out what you want to do by finding a mentor and talking to people, and they can give you their advice, and it's super important. Like that's you have to keep and maintain your relationships as well.
Yeah, that can't be understated. Mentorship and networking is critical, because
yes,
you may not have visibility into opportunities based on LinkedIn posts, but if you have the network, if you have a mentor that has visibility into the potential for openings, and that creates the opportunity. And one of the points, Sandra, you mentioned that is so critical is you need to constantly develop your skill set and stay on top of your game, because you have this two lines that are moving kind of trajectory upward. The intensity and growth of technology through artificial intelligence, machine learning, and then now we're seeing quantum computing, right, in computing power.
Mm-hmm.
But with that, the attack surface, the level of sophistication for cyber attacks will continue to grow, and therefore this is a great opportunity for you to continuously retool and develop your skill set, because what you know today may be outdated tomorrow.
Be obsolete tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into some specific roles. So let's step into an organization. So if let's pretend for a minute that this is I'm hiring, right? I just received approval from the board to go hire 20 people, right? So these are specific roles that I'm going to hire for. So secure provisioning is a category, and the provisioning of security is really designing for security. We want to build in security as part of your software development as part of deployment of tools. As you know, many products, many platforms don't come with security built into it. So you want to be in a position to have your security function apply those capabilities, those controls as part of your deployment activity. And most organizations that design for security tend to be on the higher end of maturity in terms of capability. Another category would be operate and maintain. So these are maintaining the systems that protect your enterprise. These might be database administrators, systems administrators, network management, firewall management. So your role is to day-to-day ensure that your baseline security associated with that platform meets certain thresholds and requirements, and you're constantly monitoring, configuring, and ensuring that the health of that platform is on point and meets those expectations. Overseeing govern is less technical, hands-on, but more informing policy. So if you have an aptitude for training, if you have more of an aptitude for writing, then this might be a good path for you, because there's no shortage of training and awareness, education. We know people are the weakest link in the security chain. They will click on the email, they will download the file, and those are the easiest point of compromise for your networks. In fact, if you see the recent ransomware attacks impacting our supply chain, they're all performed through email compromise. So, training, developing policies, governing, overseeing, more soft-oriented skills. Then there's protect and defend. So this is hey, we're going to think about the adversary on our environment. We're going to assume they're here. Now, how do we support the security by identifying, where they have specific traffic patterns? How do we perform incident response? Do we perform analysis on, specific threats that exist in our environment? And, how are we proactively defending and reducing some of that risk? And then there's analysis. So we start to do analysis, then that becomes more of let's look at trends. Let's look at threat activity externally. Let's look at threat activity internally. Let's understand the exploitation of specific vulnerabilities. What's the probability? What's the impact to my organization? And how do I help to inform our security posture and defense based on that analysis? So extremely interesting role, and the threat analysis role has become increasingly important, because that role helps to prioritize the number of resources to defend the enterprise. Then, of course, before you're doing the analysis piece, you need to have collection capability. So where are the sources of compromise? Where are the log sources? Who's producing a log? What device is producing a log? How do I monitor that activity? There are security operations centers that monitor for various activities across their network, and or what I call the eyes on glass, to ensure that everything is operating. And if there's an alert, if there's an activity that needs to be triggered and communicated, that collect and operate mode would then trigger an event and talk about what's our response. And then, of course, there's investigation. So the investigation team is really interesting, because you're in the process of looking at what's the root cause, why did they come in to our network, where are they from? Are they from a different country? Is it an insider threat? Is it a supplier threat? Digital forensics is a big component here, where you're taking sources of data across the entire network and you're piecing together the puzzle on what actually occurred, and you're creating a story as to how that attack has been realized. And that investigative activity allows you to identify, again, root cause, who the actors are, and then once you have that intelligence, you're able to create defenses. So wide range of opportunities. specializations, and these just give you some fairly concrete, categories and specialty areas that you can plug into. There is a hyperlink below that has a PDF that has additional details on this, but I just wanted to give you all an understanding of the various types of roles that you can operate in and play in. And these are roles as of today. I mean, in the next year or so, as we see technology increase and the threat actors start to advance their capability, I would suspect that these opportunities in these categories will be updated. And looking at the cyber roles and job opportunities, the top industries are in the professional services sector. So this gives and Sandra's perfectly positioned in KPMG in a professional services capacity. But think about any consulting firm, any advisory firm, any firm that's doing a type of security service on behalf of companies. That's where the lion's share of the job opportunities are, and they pay very well. Then there's this what we call 31% other category in terms of industry. So that's a mixture of healthcare. It could be other industries such as retail, and then financial services and insurance represents a large portion. Those types of firms are always hiring cyber experts, and not only do they require cyber experts because of the constant attack on their firm, but the regulators that oversee those companies require them to invest in cyber. So, plenty of opportunity here. And the most commonly used cyber skills, as you can see, again, this is a bit of a dated study in 2018, but I think it still kind of holds true. You'll see network monitoring, security analysis, investigation-oriented skills, and security administration. And so this kind of gives you, the picture of where we are, and just reinforcing some of the skills in demand. Security analysis, penetration testing, incident response, cloud security. Cloud security is now, emerging as companies go from on-premises in their environment to shifting to the cloud. The cloud offers advanced computing power at a reduced cost, but also introduces new security complexity. And through those cloud instances, whether you're using Azure, Google Cloud, AWS, each one of those cloud instances has a security stack attached to them and requires specific configuration in order to defend and secure those instances, which requires training and certification. So definitely, no shortage of opportunity here. I know we're about 15 minutes left in the hour, so I'm going to stop there. And thanks, Sandra. Thank you, Dora, for providing us the opportunity to offer this this insight. And we're going to double down and continue to focus on cyber. But I'm going to stop there and hand it off to Dora for some Q&A.
Okay, so our first question tonight comes from Efrain Prado, and he wants to know, besides some of the technical qualities, what are other skills you look for the most when recruiting people for cybersecurity?
What I can say in my experience, when I interview with KPMG and with many other companies that are similar, they're not only looking for your technical skills, they're looking for your soft skills, your communication skills, your values as a person. And that's why behavioral interviews are so important, because they're gonna give you a situation in kind of based on your ethics, based on your values, how would you respond to the situation. So that's where they gather information about you as a person. That's something that no one can teach you. So that's very important, that you are someone that's trustworthy, that able to trust, and someone who's going to be able to communicate and someone who loves learning. There's so many other skills that can they're even more important than technical, because technical, of course, you need a competency to be able to do cybersecurity, but that's something that you can learn. That's something that if you are a college student, graduate student, or undergrad student, you can learn it. You have the ability to learn, but your soft skills that can also be learned, can also be developed, but that's more something that more unique to you, and that's my response.
I completely agree, Sandra. Those are extremely relevant, and I'm sure you experienced that as part of your onboarding process through KPMG, and the ability to communicate, soft skills, to think more holistically, outside the box thinking, creativity,
Yes.
artistic, think about
Innovation, time management, all that.
those are all critical to cybersecurity,
Mhm.
and particularly an area where you need to think almost 2 or 3 steps ahead of the adversary, particularly if you're
Correct.
on the defensive side. You've got to be inquisitive and be in the build
Curious.
research and
Yes.
understand and realize that you don't have all the answers, but the answers are there, and go seek those answers, and don't have any reluctance or any shame in admitting that you don't have the
You
answers,
made them.
and
Yeah.
that you want to be this is a team effort, right? And
Mhm.
and it's you're only one individual against a potential nation state. They have billions of dollars to spend on attacking your company, and you're only one person. But you have a team, you have an organization, and think about teaming, and think about the whole of the organization is going to be critical.
Yeah, teamwork is critical. Knowing how to work in a team, be able to communicate, and being having that inquisitive, that curiosity, and be resourceful. If you don't know the answer, you know where to find the answer. You are proactive. That's super critical in a cybersecurity role.
Okay, our next question comes from Jan Bonte, and she wants to know, what would either of you suggest for students pursuing undergraduate degrees with hopes of entering into cybersecurity in the future?
I'll take a first swing at that. I would say place emphasis on computer sciences, and also just understanding the core components of technology, and understanding the ins and outs of how the technology is formed from communications, from a protocol perspective, but also blend in some level of political science or liberal arts to refine your communication skills, your analytical skills.
I totally agree with Chris on that. To the computer science foundation are super important, but you have to combine it with, as Chris mentioned, the liberal arts, taking maybe fundamentals in project management as well, some engineering management classes, some leadership classes, any of that.
Okay, so this next question is connected to that, from Brian Gonzalez, and he wants to know, what are the prevalent certifications to accelerate cybersecurity careers for a community college student?
It depends what you want to do in cyber. I see that in terms of if you want to work for the government, a entry level, as I mentioned, certification that I see a lot of people getting is Security Plus. and Network Plus. Those are the main two ones, but it really depends on what you want to do in cyber. You can also go for the cloud certifications if you want to work in cloud. Then for forensic certification. So, right?
Yeah, the SANS Institute offers hands-on training, which is very beneficial. Anything around cloud computing, artificial intelligence, big data, data analytics is all very relevant. And you may want to think about a broad-based set of domains that look at the various areas of cybersecurity, such as the Certified Information Security Systems Professional, CISSP, or ISACA offers the Certified Information Security Manager, CISM certification. And that kind of gives you, think of it as the high-level 20,000-foot view of the various domains. And you start from there, and then you can start drilling down into which area of specialization you're interested in.
Yeah, SANS is a great resource to look at.
Yeah.
CompTIA as well.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question comes from Joel Taboada, and he is asking for a recent grad with a degree in network engineering and security. What are some skills that employers are in the immediate need of? And I know you mentioned a few earlier, but could you add on to any of that?
Network engineering. One area that comes to mind that's actually extremely relevant given the supply chain hacks is the ability to help architect zero trust networks. So how do we take a network that is extremely connected and loose in such a way, and how do we create compartmentalization of those networks through specific network engineering techniques, architectural reviews, and the introductions of different technologies such as multi-factor authentication, network segmentation, and advanced monitoring. So I would think that, you know, coming in with a strong understanding of, you know, network infrastructure, TCP/IP, the underlying protocols, you'd be able to take those skill sets and apply that to fortifying the networks through zero trust architecture.
Okay, our next question comes from Brian, and he's asking, can a computer science undergrad student pivot into cybersecurity?
Yes.
Absolutely. Astounding yes.
I pivoted from data science into cybersecurity. So.
Hey, we have an example here.
I learned how to code in Python, and that is going to be helpful for me in cyber too. You deal with a lot of data, and if you learn how to analyze, how to code, it will be much easier for you too, depending on the role, but you'll be more knowledgeable.
Okay, I'm not sure if you guys know this question, but do you have a ballpark of how much is the starting salary for an entry-level cybersecurity analyst?
Depends on the industry, location.
I agree.
Do we have a ballpark?
You could be upward of 6 figures, maybe close to 6 figures.
Fan companies, okay. It will be more than 6 figures. The fan companies.
Okay, so we have a few more here. What is the industry perception of filling open positions with candidates from coding boot camps versus traditional associate or bachelor of science degree programs?
I would say the skill set, the supply and demand will be in favor of those individuals that can offer the skills to immediately contribute towards the enterprise mission objectives. So if you have hands-on skills, development, training, certification without the degree, but you can offer, the direct contribution, I would say those individuals would be hired sooner compared to those without hands-on. Yep.
I agree. I agree with Chris. Even though I'm getting a master's degree, that kind of it's impressive, It makes you still get considered, but for an interview, but that doesn't determine that you're gonna get a role. Not because you have a master's degree in cybersecurity, you will get the role for sure, or you will be getting you will call for interviews. There are other aspects that they look at as do you have the skill set that they're looking for.
Yeah, and some employers will actually, offer to pay for your degree
Right.
while you work. Like, I had my graduate degree 80% paid for, as long as I maintained a 4.0. So guess what? I made sure I maintained a 4.0, and Citigroup compensated 80% of that. And so there are opportunities there. I mean, you might have to sign an agreement where you can't leave the job for like 3 to 5 years if they're going to compensate you for your degree. But it's a worthwhile investment, and particularly if they'll support you through that journey.
Yeah, if I had that opportunity, I could have taken it for sure.
Okay, so Kaylin, I think it's Cornell. She wants to know, do certifications matter, or are cyber-related internships more essential for landing an entry role level?
Certifications. Well, look, certifications on paper they're appealing, but there's a but. If you don't have the skill set to support the certification, then it's kind of useless. So I would advocate for, more hands-on training, experience, maybe even volunteer. Some cases, like to gain the experience, you may have to volunteer and develop that muscle. Again, to your point, Sandra, it's developing that cyber muscle to be in a position to contribute on day one.
Yeah, I will also encourage students to find an internship and start getting the experience, because that will be more valuable for recruiters and stuff.
Okay, and our last question for the evening comes from Ruby Perez, and she wants to know, what resources do you guys recommend for offensive and defensive hands-on training?
Offensive training, there are a number of organizations that provide what they call cyber gyms or cyber ranges, and the sole purpose is to help to simulate a cyber attack, and you can have two components of the equation. You have a defender, you have an offensive capability. We'd have to do some research on that, but I think through Dora, through the SHIP ecosystem, we can provide some recommendations.
There is one called Hack the Box.
Hack the Box.
Hack the Box. It's free.
Awesome. Then I guess we are ready to go to the next slide to talk about what SHIP has to offer to our members to prepare them for a cybersecurity career.
Oh, is that me?
Yep.
I stopped sharing. I apologize. Hold on.
Okay. Well, while you're pulling that up, I do want to highlight a few terms that you two used that were so significant. I loved the phrase of retooling, of constant learning, of staying relevant. And so with this next slide, here are some opportunities of how SHIP is here to help you stay on top of your game. And that is with our with the convention coming up, we actually have 5 competitions coming up, and one of them in particular is the cybersecurity competition. But jumped ahead, and so we will be sending out. Okay, let me jump back to this slide.
Can you see it? What's next, or
yes,
which one do you
I
want to
can
see?
see it. Okay, all right, you're fine. We'll jump back to here. So what's next? So in our part 2 webinar coming up June 17th, make sure that you tune into our show for the Cybersecurity Career Paths, where we have some of our very own lifetime members that will be on this panel to discuss career pathways. And that will be June 17th. And so in our next slide, we are sharing some more ways where you can stay on top of your game. So at the convention, we will have the cybersecurity competition, and we'll have the final part of the competition there in Orlando. And so the registration will be opening around August. And in addition to that, we have our CyberTech Trek program. It's all online, and these are certifications. We partnered with MindEdge, and you can choose one of these packages. You actually get a discount from being a SHIP member to participate in one of these cybersecurity packages to get you fully certified here. So these are some additional things that you can do to retool and to stay on top of your game, to stay relevant. All right, so to wrap up this show, I just want to thank you all for participating tonight. SHIP Familia, please join me in thanking Chris and Sandra. We greatly appreciate you guys for sharing such valuable information with us. And make sure, again, that you join us on June 17th for part 2 of this webinar series. SHIP Familia, also take the survey. You'll receive it in a thank you email with a link right after this webinar. And remember that this recording, along with all the others, are found on the SHIP National YouTube page. Someone had asked for the link within this webinar to that nice framework, and you can find it in that YouTube webinar on our SHIP National YouTube page. I also want to give a shout out to Deshaun Phillips and Zoraida Martinez, who are cybersecurity competition leaders this year, our committee chairs. Big shout out to them. So signing off from SHIP National, buenas noches, stay safe and well.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
Noches.
Ciao, ciao.
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 Okay.